Hello, welcome back to the Ultrascape podcast. We're now on to episode 12, and I'm joined by Becky Waters, as always.
Hey Josh, how you doing?
I'm good, thanks. And we've also got a special guest this week, Robin Gemperle. Robin, how are you?
I'm just fine. Thanks for the invite. Perfect.
Yeah, thanks for joining. And obviously, you're just back from Kyrgyzstan and enjoying the off season.
I would say so. Yeah, I'm back from Kyrgyzstan. Also, just now back from a weekend with friends in Munich. Good life, I'd say.
Yeah, well, you need to balance out all those kind of dry biscuits and cheese sandwiches in Kyrgyzstan somehow. So yeah, we've got a great podcast coming up. We're going to focus just on a roundup of the Transcontinental Race. You may remember in the last podcast, it hadn't quite finished, but I had to fly to Kyrgyzstan, so we couldn't wait any longer. And obviously, the Silk Road Mountain Race just finished. Robin managed to win it, so we'll be running through the Silk Road Race and asking Robin a few questions, as well as the news roundup and everything else we usually do. But before we go any further, just got to say thank you to the sponsors of the podcast. So, you know, by now, Redshift have been sponsoring the podcast from the very beginning. And yeah, they've still got a discount code. I was using some of their products in Kyrgyzstan. The shock stop seat post is very, very good on those very rough corrugated roads. As well, we all know now. We've all been to Kyrgyzstan and experienced that. So yeah, definitely invaluable. So big thanks to Redshift for their support. And also an episode sponsor this episode is Albion. So they've given us a nice 15% discount. We're still waiting for our merch. It's not turned up yet, so that might turn up at some point. But in the meantime, you can get yourself a 15% discount. So I'll put the code below and there'll be a link on the screen. So yeah, thanks for those guys for all the support.
Josh, you forgot to ask me about my handlebars.
Oh yeah, have you used them yet?
Well, as you mentioned, I have put them on. Yeah, and I am riding the bike. It's done me well on my 25-kilometer commute, so it's slightly in comparison to your lap of Kyrgyzstan. But it turned what was a hideously aggressive old cyclocross bike into something that doesn't actually break my back, and I can sit on it for about 20 kilometers.
So these are your Redshift top shelf bars?
Yeah, they're the high riser ones with the drop bars. It's also about the first time in 2.5 years I've been on drop bars. So I think the fact I managed to survive an hour's ride on them is quite the success.
Well, I'm glad you finally fitted them, but also a little bit disappointed because I'm not going to be able to give you stick now every single episode. But I'm sure I'll find something else. So over to you, Becky. What's been happening in the news over the last month? Because to be honest, I don't really know because I've not really had much phone signal for the best part of the month.
No, you've been in some kind of vacuums. I'll get you up to date on what's happening in 2026. We've had a couple of new races released or changes to existing races, starting with Two Volcano Sprint in the south of Italy, which normally happens around September, October. So it's very much an end of season race, but it's been moved to the end of April. We don't have many details on it yet, but that'll change slightly the dynamic of who turns up and also the weather. I went there a couple of years ago thinking that it would be a lovely sunny end to the season in Italy, but it was freezing cold with bits of rain, and I doubt the end of April will be much warmer. So it shouldn't be too much of a different race.
Well, the unknown race was in Tuscany, wasn't it, this year? And that was terrible weather. So,
exactly.
But yeah, that makes it quite interesting, actually. It could be a good warm-up for TCR, like an early season race, just to sort of test everything. So I wonder if that will change the dynamics.
Well, speaking of early season races and kilometer races, there's a new race in Vietnam, Interscape race, which is 4,000 kilometers starting next March. Josh and I quickly noted that is an early time of year to be ready to do 4,000 kilometers if you live in the Northern Hemisphere. So we'll see how that goes. But that's an exciting new location that I don't believe there are many, if any, bikepacking races.
No, it's definitely one for like a touring destination. Like I've ridden through Vietnam myself, and it is really great, and it'll probably be a pretty good ultra to do. Plenty of food, cheap accommodation, and yeah, it's quite a long country though. So 4,000 km, it's a big old ride.
Next event that we've picked out is Further Unseeded. We'll talk more about the other Further events later in the podcast. But this is the first time that Further will leave Western Europe. It's been very much a Pyrenees or British race, but it'll head to British Columbia in Canada, which is a long way away. And it'll be a 560-kilometer race on the 11th of September next year. These races are organised by Camille McMillan, but this will be done in conjunction with Sven Tuft, who lives out there. Similar to the way Further East was done with Josh's local knowledge of East Anglia, Sven will be the kind of eyes on the ground for this one.
Bit more exotic than East Anglia, though.
Slightly hillier as well, I imagine.
Yeah. And a rider that Robin's familiar with from Tour Divide this year as well.
Yeah.
He was up there early days, wasn't he?
I guess so, yeah. Like, I think he got sick then after a few days. So that was it. But yeah, I'm pretty sure he can put together something that is quite hard.
Definitely, yeah. He doesn't mess around, does he?
And the last event that we've seen released for next year is the Final Frontier Patagonia. This is an inaugural event starting on the 8th of March in 2026. So a lot of these events are coming up quite soon. It starts in Puerto Montt in Chile and it heads south down the Carretera Austral, which would be familiar to anyone who's ridden in the south of Chile, been cycle touring down there. And it cuts into Argentina and heads back into Chile before returning into Argentina and finishing at the end of the world in Ushuaia, about 2,700 kilometers. And there are 3 different distance options for riders. It's a region that will be familiar to anyone who did or has followed Gravel del Fuego or across Andes for the last 2 years, but they won't be there this year. So that's a new race down in the south of Chile.
Elsewhere, we've got a couple of ongoing record attempts. So in the last episode, we touched on Sofian Sahili and his attempt to break the Trans-Eurasia record. So that was from Lisbon to Vladivostok in Russia. So it seems like it's not simple. I think the cycling part of it has been the easiest part for Sofian. And so I actually randomly bumped into him in Kyrgyzstan on the way to the start of the Silk Road race, which was a massive coincidence. He was supposed to be crossing into China directly from Tajikistan, but he wasn't allowed to cross the border on his bike. And so he ended up going through Osh, where the Silk Road started. And we just happened to be on the same pass at the same day. So that was pretty nice to bump into him. But he then made his way through Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, across China. And at 200k to go, he had to cross back into Russia. But it looks like he's got stuck at the border with 200k to go. And we don't quite know where he is at the moment. So the record pace is gone now. So Jonas Dijkman set the record and his dot is finished. But Sofian's is kind of floating just past the border. And yeah, so we're just basically waiting to see where he is. And there's a lot of tracker issues in Russia. Obviously, there's a lot of sanctions on Russia, and I suspect a lot of the satellites have been turned off above Russia. So the trackers don't work very well, and nor does social media. So I half expect we might hear something soon. So we've got to wait and see if Sofian has beaten that record or not. And elsewhere, Angus Young, he was going for the Eastern Divide Trail down the eastern side of the US. So he's ahead of the record at the moment. He's just crossed into Florida, which is the final state. So that's 5,000 miles done and another 1,000 miles to go, which actually took me by surprise. I didn't realize Florida was quite such a long state. But yeah, the scale of the US is something different, as I'm sure Robin can probably attest to after his summer exploits.
It's funny to hear you talk about Florida in a bikepacking context. I don't think I ever have heard it.
No, the only thing I hear about Florida is the world speed records, because it's really flat and they can like cover loads of distance really quickly.
Yeah.
Or like the mileage records they do. And apparently there's like a big cycle circuit, and this one guy set like the month record by just going in a circle for a month, covering loads of distance, which sounds pretty horrendous, to be honest. But there we go. Elsewhere, we've got a few races that have happened, as well as Silk Road and the other big races. First up, Further Pyrenees. That was won by Quentin Lille, I think for the second time. So it's a bit of a crazy race across the Pyrenees, again run by Camille McMillan. Probably more hiking than cycling, or definitely probably 50-50 time-wise of both. So yeah, another good ride from Quentin. And also the second race in the Triple Crown Challenge over in the US, the Colorado Trail. So do you want to pick that one up, Beccy?
Yeah, we went into the Colorado Trail expecting some fast rides. As predicted by the organizer, the conditions were looking good, and we were right. The winner was Nolan van Hart. He won in a time of 4 days, 11 hours and 24 minutes, which is a good time, but by no means a record. Time on Fish's time from 2023 still stands. However, the fastest women's time, which Katia Rakhmatulina set in 2023 in 5 days, 1 hour 53 minutes, was broken. And this is the first time that we've seen a woman go under 5 hours. Nicolette Jones came in after 4 days, 23 hours and 35 minutes. Making her the fastest woman and 4th place overall. So another record falls.
Elsewhere, and closer to home, at least for us, is the Badlands. Again, we've had this debate a number of times, actually. Is it a long gravel race or is it a short ultra race? And it seems like it's probably a crossover event Some gravel racers take it on and make a big deal about how long it is. Some bikepackers do it just for a sort of end of season warm down. But this year, the first woman was Svenja Betts, and she's also notably won the Tracker 560 and the Unbound XL. She was 11th overall in 2024, and she took the women's win this year. So that's a pretty impressive haul of wins this year. The overall winner and fastest man was Rick Stefan. He's actually a firefighter. So yeah, it's good to see that he managed to sort of put it together. And I guess it's the kind of event where you can just really target over one day, around a full-time job and do a great job, a great ride. Have you raced Badlands, Robin?
Yes, I did in 2023, I think. Yeah. So
and what do you make of it? Is it a gravel race or an ultra?
It's difficult. I don't really care too much about this discussion, but in my opinion, it's rather an ultra, I would say.
Yeah,
because you spend a few nights out there, and the dynamics are not so much about racing anymore. Like, it's more about yourself also. And I feel that could also be a criteria which actually is never really brought up. Dynamics at the front, if you know what I mean. Therefore, for example, Unbound XL is for me way closer to a normal gravel race because it's really aggressive racing, whereas Badlands is more about rolling fast by yourself.
More like a time trial effort.
Makes sense. Yeah, kind of.
And would you go back to those kind of events?
Yeah, well, next year. Like you mentioned Svenja's. Yeah, you mentioned Svenja's 3 wins, and I kind of want them as well, even though that won't be too easy.
Well, we'll look forward to seeing that next year for sure. Elsewhere, GB Duro, so that was won by Tom Downers, just over 8 days. I think it was about 8 days, 2 hours. It's an event that's maybe not had as many entries over the last few years. There was only a 47% finish rate this year, only 10 finishers, which is a shame, but it's it's a good event. It's probably close to my heart because it's probably one of the only events I've ever managed to win. So yeah, we'll mention that. And then still loads more races coming up in September. So there's probably more than we've got time to highlight, but there's a couple of key ones. So Alps Divide starts on Saturday. So just over 1,000 km, 3,600 meters of elevation. So it starts from Menton in southern France, finishes on Lac Le Mans. So yeah, basically crosses a lot of the Alps. So yeah, it should be a good event. I'm actually going out myself after the disappointment of scratching Silk Road. So we'll see how that works out. It'll either go really well or really badly, I think, depending on the legs. But there's also quite a strong women's field as well. Jenny Tuff, probably a name familiar with people who've done some of the mountain races. Jade Simpson, I think she was there last year. Maggie Bichard, probably a name that not many people know of, but she was a teammate of mine about 15 years ago when I was doing 24-hour races, and she's pretty quick, so she'll be one to watch for sure. Simone Ida, she's a really strong rider from Switzerland, I believe, so really good on the climbs. And yeah, should be a good race to watch, so I'm looking forward to that. What else have we got coming up, Beccy?
This weekend we also have the Bohemia Border Bash race. It's 1,300 kilometers starting in the Czech Republic. It claims it follows the ancient borderlands of Bohemia. And if you look at the route, it's quite pleasing. It follows 1,000 kilometers of the route follows along the Czech border, and it dips in and out of Germany, Austria and Poland. On the start list, there are 50 riders and 7.5 pairs.
7.5. How does that work?
We'll see if their pair turns up.
Elsewhere, again, mentioning further east, as it was now known as Further Equinox. So it's the route, it's the race around East Anglia, the east of England, which actually I was involved in. Actually, no, I made the route, and Camille's been running it as an event for the last 5 years or so. This is going to be the last edition. We spoke about the edition in Canada next year, so I guess that's replacing this one. So yeah, it's a small event, but yeah, it's kind of cool. So yeah, worth looking out for.
I loved coming to that event a couple of years ago. Not only because you drove me around in your nice hunt van, but also because...
That was the intro to podcasting, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was with
Stefano.
You and
me with Stefano on Broomwagon.
But what I thought was interesting about that event, and I think it's true of races in all flatlands, is it's very easy to underestimate how hard they will be because you are pedaling every single kilometre. You don't get any descending or any freewheeling, and especially on a lot of the tracks in East Anglia, they're quite slow going. So there's just none of it's easy.
Yeah. Well, people always ask me, obviously I live in the flatlands, like, how do you go so well on climbs? I'm like, well, basically it's riding into a headwind all day is like going up a climb, as long as it's not too steep. It's very, very similar. And I think it catches people out. And yeah, it's a psychological game then when you're going much slower than you expect. It can really, really mess with people. And we see it every year at Further East. Again, not the toughest sort of race in the world, but when you're kind of not slept and you've got to ride around a grassy field for hours on end, it can play havoc with your mind. So yeah, that's the last edition. So we'll keep an eye on that and report back next episode. And finally, a new race we mentioned probably 3 or 4 episodes now, Pyrenesia. Basically, it's a new event across the Pyrenees, run by the same organisers behind the Grand Guanche events, very popular in the Canary Islands. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that goes. So it's a gravel event, self-supported across the Pyrenees. And yeah, well, again, be keeping an eye on that. Right, I think that's the news roundup. There's quite a lot going on this month. Should we get into the main bulk of it, Beccy?
Yeah, we'll start with a bit of a roundup on the Transcontinental. It hadn't quite been won at the time of our last record. So as many people will know, it was won by Victor Bossoni and Jana Kessenheimer, both of whom rode quite methodical and drama-free races. So congratulations to them. Since our last record, we've heard of the Maglia Nero, which we talked about being a revived jersey for this year's TCR. That's the black jersey, and it goes to the last rider in before the GC cutoff. So it's not the last rider on the road. It's not the Lanterne Rouge, but the last one in general classification. And that goes to James Illman. And this year, riders he was awarded with a bit of Albion stash, a black Albion jersey and one of their black cargo vests, which has got some graphics of the Transcontinental on, and they looked pretty swish.
Well, yeah. So, Becky, you've been a winner of that before, and you didn't get any swag, did you?
I know. I did message our friend Jack at Albion, and he told me I'd have to go to the Peddler customer service department to get any free stash because I did it so many years ago. So that was no help.
Robin's got a few old jerseys left. He can give you one.
Yeah, you can have some. I don't know if they're black, but there will be some.
We do have a finisher from yesterday, actually. Amy Longley Cook. After 37 days of riding, she's not actually the Lanterne Rouge. We're still watching Helen Weatherall, who's currently coming through towards the end of Italy. So it's not done yet, even though it feels like it is.
That's a long time to be on a bike, isn't it? It's harder to go slow than it is to go fast sometimes. How many days is that out? Just sort of in the unknown. Well, they've stopped and had a lot of meals, which is also very sensible.
Yeah. Now that we have the finishers of TCR, the official results aren't out yet, but we've seen another 2 women join the existing 7 women who finished in the top 25. So there's now been a total of 11 times that a woman has finished in the top 25 because Jana and Fiona have both done it twice. So that's even more growth on a year, which is hopefully a good reward to Lostop for their efforts on the 100 Women TCR campaign.
Yeah, and we saw a really good race. Like even in the last sort of 500k, the lead changed. Cynthia got ahead of Jana, but then unfortunately had quite a few punches. So it's kind of. I wonder if Cynthia will go back and try again, if she's got unfinished business with the TCR. So I guess we'll have to wait till next year. But hopefully the women's field will be equally as strong next year because it was good to see like a real battle, and we kind of did say before as well that I think that will help. Basically that we'd get more women in the top 10, and I think Jana was in the top 10, wasn't she? And Cynthia was 11th or 12th, so I think without those problems she would have also been in the top 10, which just goes to show it's kind of the longer the race, the more balanced it gets in terms of kind of it's more about thinking rather than just pure physical strength, which women tend to do a bit better on these ultras in my experience. Robin, what did you make of the TCR this year? Obviously, you won it last year, and you've done it three times, I think, haven't you?
I've done it. Yeah, I've done it 3 times. Correct. Like I noticed there was quite a bit of fear of missing out, which I didn't really expect after Tour Divide. But yeah, I watched it. I thought it was really interesting. I thought it was way more interesting to watch the women's race than the men's. I mean, the men's was absolutely amazing until the Ferry, but then it was quite. Let's be honest, quite clear pretty soon.
It was a done deal, wasn't it, really?
Yeah. No, but...
I was going to say, what did you make of the Ferry thing? Obviously, you're someone who's, raced for the win there. Some people kind of get upset that the race is somewhat decided by a Ferry timetable.
Yeah,
What do you make of it?
I think it's actually quite complex. Like on one hand, I feel like, okay, this is now the 11th edition. After the first decade of racing, they felt like, hey, we can change some things. We can do things a bit more differently, or just try out other stuff. And I feel like this is the perfect edition to try out something like this. Then I also feel like, especially with the men's race, it kind of really worked out. It resulted in an incredibly interesting race to the Ferry. So for people that are already into the sports, it was really, I would say, interesting and cool and nice to watch. But I think there's a disadvantage about integrating, or what is it, like disadvantage? Just something that I consider quite bad. And in my opinion, it results, or like bad if you're interested in making these sports more popular, this discipline more popular, making it accessible and understandable to people that are maybe more focused on the normal cycling world, or not even into cycling at all. Then I think like it just results in talking that is not about sports, but about very weird, controversial things that only people understand that are already in the scene. So I feel like it results in too much talking, which is not focused on sports itself, but on that issue of the Ferry. So I consider it two-sided.
Yeah, I think I'd tend to agree as well. Certainly doing the daily coverage I was doing at the time, and a lot of people in the comments were just saying, oh, it's just a race to the ferries, it's over. And it's kind of a bit, I found it in a way a bit disrespectful for the riders out there, because it's still, everyone's still riding. And it's like we were saying, it's kind of, you've still got to do it. You've still got to ride across a continent. And that's not easy. And the racing is, well, I don't even think like Victor and Martin were racing by the end. They were just surviving, weren't they?
Yeah.
Well, you do on TCR. You're just kind of on your limits, aren't you?
Somehow reach the finish.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't think they should have it every year, but it certainly added quite a lot of interest. And I think the riders that committed early, committed to that ferry and made it the whole plan. Well, I think Victor and Martin did that. And I think that was it for them. And they were the top two places on the podium.
I think the organisers and we as dot watchers got lucky that Martin just made that ferry. If Martin hadn't made that ferry, and it was Victor who got there first?
No, Martin got there first and Victor just got the ferry.
Sorry. If Victor hadn't made that ferry, the dot watching experience would have completely changed, because we would have known we would have at least thought who was going to win. Even though I know Victor still finished quite fast, potentially would have caught Martin. We wouldn't have thought that.
It would have been tight though.
That would have been the most amazing scenario, right?
Yeah.
But yeah.
So yeah, would you go back then, Robin, on the new kind of direction change and route?
Yes, I clearly consider it. Also with like we talked about these short ultras before a bit, and now I would say if that is my schedule for next year, there's a lot of space for one big ultra as well, and this will most likely be Transcontinental again. Even though I said I was not going to be back or going to come back very soon, but yeah, this year I noticed I just love that race, even though many people don't understand. For me, it continues to be the greatest.
Yeah, I get that too.
Yeah.
A little bit sometimes. Every year, I'm like, oh, maybe I should go back. And then every time I turn up, I get my head kicked in.
I mean, you have that relationship to it as well, like with winning it.
It was my start. All of this is because of TCR.
Blind.
Yeah, the problem is, though, that the more pedaling involved on roads, the worse I do nowadays. So I need to go and find some ridiculous, stupid race in the mountains where you just suffer. That's where I tend to do better, which is unfortunate, but there we go.
Well, that probably moves us on quite nicely, speaking of big, hard races in the mountains, to Silk Road, which I'll leave it to you, Josh, to intro into this, as you were there and you saw it.
I was there for 3/4 of it, at least, anyway, or maybe 2/3. So yeah, the Silk Road Mountain Race started in Osh this year. It was an interesting route, actually. So it started in Osh before, but it's never gone quite so far south. So essentially, we started in Osh and finished. I'll say we. Some people finished in Caracol. My ride ended in Caracol. I wouldn't say I finished. So basically, the riders went basically the whole breadth of the country, taking in some classic Silk Road passes and tracks and areas, and also quite a new section at the start, including the infamous 30k hiker bike, with numerous river crossings, which were a little bit sketchy. We'll come on to that in a little while. So the winner was a one Robin Gemperle, 6 days, 20 hours, 36 minutes, which was made even more remarkable by the fact that Robin also won Tour Divide not too many weeks before. So again, we'll touch on that in a while. Alex McCormack, came second, so he'd already won the Hellenic Mountain Race and the Atlas Mountain Race earlier this year. He was looking to complete the set. Didn't quite make it, but he finished second in 7 days, 16 hours, 51 minutes. And Marion Golfman, he's been a bit unlucky in these races. He's again done all the mountain races this year, but he finally got the podium. 7 days, 23 hours, 23 minutes. Megan Hakkinen was the fastest woman, 9 days, 4 hours, 6 minutes. So she's completed the Nelson Triple Crown, all the races for the year. And she was also 10th overall, which was an incredibly strong ride. And we had quite a good battle for the podium, or second as well. So Sammy Sari and Leanne Bentley, they were back and forth quite a lot over the course of the race. Eventually, Sammy came in second, so 10 days, 17 hours, 22 minutes. Leanne was a few hours behind, so she was 11 days, 2 hours, 47 minutes. So basically, there's a sleep in it, I think, essentially. So again, good to see a good battle for the women's podium. So I mentioned riders that completed all 3 of Nelson's races this year. So it was Alex McCormack, Megan Hakkinen, Carlotta Schumacher, and Nils Ehrman managed to complete all of them. Some people, i.e. myself, didn't manage it. But yeah, it was the last chance to complete the full Nelson, or the Nelson Triple Crown, before it comes to 4 races next year. So next time it's going to be a lot harder.
We totaled up the full Nelson, and it's just over 4,100 kilometres of racing with 101,000 metres of elevation. And interestingly, I think I've been comparing this to the US Triple Crown, given that they are the kind of long ultra off-road races. But where they differ significantly, I think, is in the time over which you can complete them, because typically they're done on grand depart. Certainly Nelson's races, the Triple Crown, I think, can be an ITT. Or not.
I believe you can add an ITT to it.
Yeah.
I think.
But the grand departs of the US Triple Crown are done over, or they're 5 months apart from the first to the last one. Whereas Nelson, having that race in February in Morocco to Kyrgyzstan in August, there's about 6.5 months of time. So you do get more rest between the races for Nelson's events, which is good, because I think a lot of racers travel more to Nelson's races, whereas in the US races, they're typically done by domestic races.
Yeah, but it is a long time to keep concentration. I mean, it's been a long year trying to get ready for Atlas in February, and then, train up again for Hellenic, and then keep that form to Silk Road. And imagine next year when you then got to perform in October as well. It's going to be a tough ask. But I think there's quite a few people who already said they want to do that. So yeah, interesting to see. So yeah, Robin, that's over to you now. Silk Road and Tour Divide in 1 year. That's a pretty impressive feat. And I think when we previewed it or spoke about it earlier in the year, I was a bit doubtful about whether it is possible, but it's a hard one. How did it physically? How was it to do that?
Actually, to be very honest, physically it was way easier than mentally. Yeah, maybe you can expect that, but to me it was really. I think it has not even so much to do with the actual fact that Tour Divide is quite close, but just with the fact that by winning Tour Divide in the way I did, I was just not very hungry anymore. And I don't think this has a lot to do with these 6 weeks, but just like with the fact that after Tour Divide, I knew that, okay, this was at least a fine season. Actually, for example, Alex McCormack said kind of a similar thing. He also was like, hey, I don't really get into race mode for Silk Road somehow, just because I think he also knew that he did good stuff already, great stuff already. And even though it was a big chance for him to win all the 3 mountain races, and even though it was a big chance for me to win these 3 long ultras that I always wanted to win, I think somehow this didn't really make up for it. It was really hard to be hungry and get into race mode. I didn't expect that.
funny you should say that. I had exactly the same conversation with you, and pretty much the same with Alex as well in Osh, just saying the same things. So I did wonder if it would be like a head game to win it. And Alex, I caught him. Well, the day I scratched, I pretty much decided that I was going to have to scratch, and I caught him, and he just slept for 10 hours, and his head wasn't in it. He was going to scratch, but he pulled it together. I think basically it was a choice of turning left or right at the top of Arabelle Pass, either dropping straight to the CP, which is what I did with my mechanical, or doing the high altitude loop. And he turned right, and he sort of got his head back in the game. But it's a hard test, especially when the events are physically as demanding, and there's quite a lot of suffering. And it was a hard race. How did you find... Well, this is a question Becky's put down. She's basically said, how did you get through the hiker bike so fast?
Oh, my word, Robin. I was looking into the numbers today, and I'm just going to grab my my little back of the envelope calculations.
It came at a massive cost, actually.
Because you were through... So I've looked at that 45-kilometre section before the summit of the hiker bike bit, and you did it in about 9 hours, 20 minutes. Alex did it in 11 hours, 45 minutes. And then Josh, Miron and Anatole, who were around you, both took rests in the middle of that section. But their moving time was between 12 to 13 and a half hours. And you just blitzed through it, also at the perfect time of day, it looked, to arrive at just gone 10 a.m. and finish at 7:30 at night. Whereas the others all, had tricky decisions on whether to sleep during or after the section.
I think that was exactly the reason why I was quite fast, the fact that I did it at the perfect time of day. Like, first of all, when I looked at the video, for example, you might have seen that on Instagram. Many might have seen it. The river crossing of Anatole, the video that Alex took, where the water is really, like, it's way above his knees. And the exact same river crossing, I did it, let's say, maybe 90 minutes earlier, with me was still clearly below my knees. So that for sure already helped. And then also, like, this seems a bit in contrary to me stating that I didn't really find race mode. But then as soon as you're in front, it's actually also quite easy to just go fast, There, that mental thing becomes kind of physical. So I just looked at what lies ahead and found out, okay, if I go really fast, I might be the only one who will be able to do the downhill during light of day. And I knew that doing this will, like, there's a big motivation for me to climb fast. This will make 1-2 hours. And then there's a big benefit if I can go down during light of day. This will make another 1-2 hours.
There's no track.
It was so difficult going down in the dark, I imagine. And it was already difficult during the evening where there was still the sun out. But so it's pretty much explicable. Thing though is, because I went up quite quickly, I completely destroyed my shoes, because I was really walking fast sometimes. And these racing shoes, I think it's not a question of brand or something. Just if you in total walk 60 Ks for the whole race, I think that's about what you have to walk, I guess. Maybe a bit less, but that's about it. Yeah, they just break if you don't watch for them during 30 Ks.
At which point did the so you finished in basically the sole of your shoe, or the plate where the cleat was stuck into your pedal, into the SPD. At which point did that fully detach? So how far did you go with basically 1 foot clipped in?
300 Ks, so it was quite fine.
The final loop.
Exactly. I kind of knew that, okay, they will break once, and I also knew that the last loop is not really technically demanding, so it should be fine if I can somehow make them survive until 300-400 Ks before the finish, then it should be fine. So it wasn't even an issue when it actually really happened. I was just like, okay, yeah, that was kind of overdue.
Yeah, you kind of know it's done by that point, and it's the hard stuff is past, certainly
exactly.
on that particular edition. And how did you find obviously you've done Divide and stuff, and you kind of get altitude to a degree there. How did you find the real high sections and the sort of lack of resupply on Silk Road in comparison to Tour Divide?
Let me think. I believe that the good thing about Silk Road is that at this point you just know that this is one of the most central aspects. So, for example, in my case, I decided to use a pretty big backpack, which I would probably never use for, let's say, for Tour Divide or for any other race, just to be prepared in case there are sections coming up where there's no resupply. So that makes things like the image of the race that you get in advance makes things in the end actually easier, because you know what you get to deal with. And therefore I wasn't really astounded that yeah, it was also kind of true. For example, I 400k, for the 400k, what is it, a loop or just a section where there is no resupply, I took some big, what is it, big tube, not tubes, the word is lacking, but I took big mayonnaise with me, just
That was the talk of the checkpoint when I got down there the next day. All they could talk about was the fact that you left the mayonnaise because you said you didn't need it anymore. So
Yeah,
so
no,
what was the thinking behind taking a tube of mayonnaise?
the thinking was that I just buy everything I need. I buy everything basically calculated to what I think I need. Like it was not exact calculations, but yeah, for sure, you know that you can estimate how much fuel you'll need for 400Ks. So I bought that and then thought, okay, I need just something that would maybe get me around if things get worse than expected, or yeah, just something that could somehow save me a little. And of course it makes sense if that something is highly compact in calories. So I was walking through that store and saw mayonnaise and felt like this is absolutely perfect.
A savory energy gel.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm super happy I didn't use it though.
Yeah, well, it's a bad sign if you have to use that. And I
Yeah.
think everyone probably had that one thing in their bag which you think, I should probably chuck it away, but I'll keep it just in case.
Exactly. Yeah, it was that thing.
I watched the Scott film that came out earlier today or yesterday, or the fragments about your Tour Divide ride. I wanted to ask, in the film, there's some shots of these course notes that are printed out. Mm-hmm. Did you have them with you?
Yes. Yeah. I had them with me. Actually, it's something that's not very typical to me. I don't know how I suddenly came up with this, but I suddenly thought, hey, that's actually quite a good idea to have something that is also kind of analog, or in case like my phone breaks, in case my Garmin breaks, I would have something that would just tell me, okay, this is coming up. So I had one note for basically every day. Of course, it wasn't accurate anymore after a few days, but it was surprisingly accurate still. It was quite precise.
What was your plan in terms of days, just if you don't mind me asking?
There were 11 sheets.
God.
But honestly, I wasn't planning to do it in 11 days though. Also, if you look at the sheets itself, 11 sheets means at least 12 days also, because you start kind of with 0. So I would say, yeah, that's why the sheets were quite accurate in the end. And also the last sheet was not very precise anymore. So I would not say I started with the idea to finish within 12 days or even.
I did a similar in when I first did it, 2019. I had a lot more than 11, mind you. But I found one thing I found.
You got a Bible,
really cool,
didn't you, Josh?
I did, yeah. 1,000
it's
pages.
just about the amount of sheets. If you do 9, we'll do it in 9.
Well, one thing I found really good is actually the psychological benefit when you got to the end of a sheet and you could like just chuck it away. And then you start with this big kind of pile of sheets. And then by the end, you've just got one more sheet. And I just found that incredibly motivating. It's like getting to the last file of an ultra, when you kind of start on that last one.
It's exactly the same thing, yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of interesting.
Actually, now that you say it, that you had this as well at your first divide, I kind of remember that you told me about this at Atlas, that you did it like this, and I could imagine.
Does that mean I get some credit for the record or for the win?
Actually, yes. Like, I think I forgot about it, but pretty sure the fact that you told me this made me think that this could be an option. You know how I mean it, like.
Yeah, I recall the conversation.
Now I remember.
Actually.
Yeah.
Also persuaded you not to ride that silly rigid gravel bike.
that is 100%. That's 100% your that's your credit. It's also like happy that we tested it at Atlas, but 100%. You said ride full suspension or ride a suspension fork or something. And yeah.
And how's your? I mean, you said you didn't really want to ride full sus at Tour de Vai, but has your opinion changed now, having done Silk Road on a full suspension bike?
I think in my specific case, I was thinking that the Spark, the Scott bike that I use, is maybe a bit too much travel for Tour Divide. It's 120 mils. It's like a real cross country bike. So the ones that I use in World Cups, of course. And I therefore thought, yeah, maybe it doesn't make sense, and ended up with the scale. I think now with all the washboard and stuff that we also had at Silk Road, like this bike just works so amazingly well. I think you would be faster with the full suspension, to be very honest.
I agree.
And
I mean,
also
any
with
type of suspension, even if it's just a seat post, it just means you can sit down and save energy. And I know it's heavier, but I think saving energy is a key thing to focus on these events.
saving energy, comfort, all these things,
So
No,
there we
the
go.
only
Robin's going to do Tour de Vide on a full sus.
on a full, but it will involve something quite or almost forbidden, because I then also believe Tour Divide makes sense to be done with a drop bar, and
Nice. Real
drop bar
Frankenstein.
on a full suspension mountain bike. I mean, there are quite a few at this point, but this is even more forbidden than what I did now with the scale gravel.
Yeah, especially given your background racing World Cups and stuff. I mean, you'll never be able to look your friends in the eyes. Just touching on that, I just wanted to, I just find your kind of backstory in terms of getting into this world of ultracycling quite fascinating. Can you kind of run us through kind of how you started cycling and kind of just, for me, I kind of, from what I know, there's a couple of steps, like going from cross country to fixie to kind of the ultras. How did that pathway kind of progress, I suppose?
Well, generally, I would just say cycling has always been a big part of my identity, and I always loved basically most aspects of it. So I started at the local mountain bike club, which is RC Grenich, and it's in Switzerland. It's a well-known mountain bike club that does a lot of work for educating young riders. So I started there. Then, if you're kind of talented, they kind of catch you and make sure you like it and you get better. And this was the case with me. So I did a lot of cross-country racing.
I suppose it's worth mentioning as well that Switzerland, like mountain biking, specifically cross-country, is big.
True.
It's probably bigger than road cycling, I would have thought.
Like given the fact that road cycling in general is always bigger, I would say that the balance is at least not as clear as it would be in every other country. But this is also, of course, due to one person. It's Nino Schurter, which is the most amazing mountain biker there ever was, and of course, this has a huge impact on what kids choose.
Was he an influence in your kind of early decisions to take it up?
I'm not so much younger than he is. It's about 10 years. So he was just starting to get really successful when I was already say in it. But I remember that there were quite a few races. For example, 2009 Canberra, where he became world champion for the first time. I really still remember these exact races and watching them and being absolutely amazed by this young guy beating Julien Absalon at the time, who was kind of the greatest back then. So it was not my motivation to take it up, but it was clearly kind of an inspiration and kind of a personal focus as soon as I was a bit closer.
I guess it makes it possible, doesn't it? You kind of, I guess you raced, it's close in age. You would have raced together quite a lot. It just makes you realize what you need to do to win these, get to the top. Makes it almost.
Yeah, exactly. I think this helps a lot. I actually even think this is okay. Now, no, this might sound completely wrong though, but I think what I notice maybe with don't misunderstand me, but with what I do now with ultracycling, this also makes people see that, hey, you can actually make a living from this. And I think this was quite similar with these really strong, crazy mountain bikers that we had in Switzerland. You kind of know them, you can talk to them, and you see that these are just humans, and you can really make it to the very top by just actually working hard and doing the stuff that you need to do.
Yeah, and I think that's a really nice point, actually, especially kind of with our sport as well. That we go to the Silk Road, and there's maybe one or two people that can win it, but then there's 200 other riders who are just doing it for a hobby, and some trying to make it. And you can chat to people and you become friends with people, and things do become achievable. And like you say, hard work. If you work hard enough, you can make it into a living if you want. I mean, it took me 20 years basically. From similar starts to you, actually. Obviously, very different level of talent, but you know, at one point I was a guy doing the local cross country races, and over time, I've just been stubborn, and
it's
got there eventually. And then people like you turn up and start doing this as well, so then it's back to square one.
Sorry about this.
Well, it's progress, though, isn't it? That's a nice thing, though, and I think
Yeah.
Going on a bit of a tangent, but the sport is improving.
And I will be the next one that will be kind of ditched. What I do now is also just one step, I guess, and I'm pretty sure there will be others coming, and I really appreciate this fact also.
Yeah, just have to make the most of it while you can.
100%. I really have to hurry.
And then you'll have to start. Then you'll have to start a podcast. And the other side. So we touched on the XC side of things, and obviously you took that to. I mean, what was the reason for? What point did you get to in terms of like racing?
Yeah, sorry,
World Cups and stuff, or.
Yeah. I actually then raced with Nino Schurter at Scott's Ram. I had a 2-year contract there as a junior. In 2013, 2014. This was not too successful though. I think this was where it became clear that, I could maybe. I always say maybe I could have made it to a top 10 World Cup rider. I don't know. Like this is just what I always say. But I would say that was about the potential, but it became quite clear that I won't be the next world champion or next Olympic champion or Olympic medalist. I would say I maybe also due to that, I kind of lost interest. Then you're 16, 17 years of age and everything else seems super interesting. So that was also a reason I wanted to start studying. Also because I noticed I won't make a lot of money with cycling, so I had to kind of also focus on my education. And there were just a few reasons that came together, which then resulted in me stopping, I think in 2015, 2014, maybe something like this.
Well, it does explain a lot, though, in terms of your kind of drive to win now. You know, if you stop because you could only thought you could only get top 10 in World Cups, then, I guess you've got to want to win, haven't you?
I get like I never thought about it this way. But yeah, for sure. I really like, actually my girlfriend says this in the film Beccy just mentioned before. She says this, I really just like winning. It's super simple and it's almost embarrassing, but yeah, I enjoy being the fastest. So, but I think then that's also okay. It's about sports, right? It's
sports is sports. It's a competition, isn't it?
Yeah, it's probably if that is the only part in life where you're that selfish, then it's okay as long as you don't take it to other everyday life tasks.
Exactly, as long as you know how to draw the line, which doesn't always happen with elite sportsmen. To be fair,
I try to do it, but of course I don't succeed always.
Well, yeah.
And
how did the I guess the fixie era. I guess most of us have had our fixie era. Yours was quite a high profile one, I guess.
Yeah, I think maybe this part then again makes everything a bit more nice again, because there, like if we now talked about only winning and only being focused on competition and performance, I would say the reason why I took up riding fixed gear and racing fixed gear bikes was basically just because I really always loved cycling culture, and I really always loved the developments in this sport, and this came up, I would say, around 2016, and then also went away again a few years later. But it was just a really big movement in the world of cycling, these retro crits, these fixed gear crits, and I enjoyed to be a part of it because I continued to like cycling. So that's why I took it up, and I had a really amazing time. And also we did a lot of bikepacking trips with our fixed gear bikes back then. And basically these bikepacking trips were the basis why I then ended up in ultracycling.
And so that ended up as an entry to the Transcontinental Race.
100%, yes. Like one of these trips, which was quite hard, resulted in my friends telling me you should sign up for TCR, which I then did. Yeah.
So that was 2023?
I did it first time in
22.
No, 22, yeah.
I just remember you did like blitzing it off the front, and there's always one. And I think that year it was you. And you're kind of looking at it thinking, it's a bit too good to be true here. And I think it's safe to say you probably learned a few lessons there, as most people probably do in their first ultra.
But I also enjoyed being an unmarked guy and just kind of leaving a mark. I still believe it's a good way to enter the scene. Because yeah, it was for sure fun. But also I already signed up, I would say, in 2019 before COVID. So I had these two COVID editions which didn't take place. Actually, it was quite interesting. I never talked about this, but I almost wanted to cancel my subscription or my entry because I thought, yeah, now in 2020 it works fine with my studies and everything, and afterwards I would not be able to do it anymore. So I remember already setting up an email to Lost Thoughts saying like, hey, I'm kind of not coming, or I'm not doing TCR because my studies have become too difficult at this time or whatever. I don't know. I don't even know why I thought so, but because it wasn't the case, obviously. But yeah, wow, that would have been quite a different turn.
So yeah, that's pretty fascinating how one kind of decision can alter the kind of the course of I guess a life and a career to a certain extent. And then here we are, not that many years later, and Robin's pretty much won what I consider the three biggest bikepacking races out there. So it's worked out pretty good.
Like I never thought about it, but yeah, that's why I already love having joined here.
Even this year, Tour Divide and Silk Road, I think most people would be pretty happy if that's all they ever won. Yeah, I think kudos to you for not cancelling your Transcontinental Race entry and sticking at it. So yeah, so that's kind of really good to hear a bit about kind of your history, but there's one really quite important question that Beccy really wants to ask you. So, Beccy, over to you.
I put this in the notes as a joke, and I'm so sorry, Robin. He's making me ask. Why did you cut your hair? Because Josh says the curls were really pretty.
Beccy says
it's. I just had someone. Who was it? It was Hannah Agassi. She was with me for a pedalette shoot, and she said it looks way better this way. So okay. It's not clear. It's not clear what is the right choice.
Well, you've won 2 massive races with a skinhead, so there we go. That's your answer.
It. Yeah, but then also Transcontinental with curls.
Yes, with the curls as well. They're iconic.
The curls. Should I? No, the thing is, like, I sometimes think about growing them back. Also, my mom likes them way better, and that's also, I would say, a good reason to grow them back. But then, if you ride bikes on a daily basis, short hair is so much more relaxing. It's just way greater.
I guess you'll just have to give up cycling then.
Yeah, maybe like once I'm done with it, I will grow.
Finally, I'm glad we got to ask the biggest questions. I didn't really care about whether you'd race TCR again.
Right, and on that note, it's probably time to end. So thanks, Robin, for joining us. And thanks, Beccy, as always. And we'll be back at the end of the month with the next podcast. And we'll have a couple of previews to the Trans-Pyrenees race. Again, a race Robin is familiar with. Another one of your victories. The Arizona Trail Race and the Anatolian Mountain Race, a new one for this year. So we're doing a bit of a preview to those and a roundup of the month news, as always. So yeah, thanks again, Robin and Beccy, for joining me.
Thank you so much, Robin.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation.
No, we'll say goodbye and we'll see you in the next one.